Call to order the meeting of the Rice Creek Board of Managers regular meeting. It's Wednesday, February 25th. It's 9 a.m. We are in the Mounds View City Hall Council Chambers. Our first order of business, thank you, is to provide the oath of office to our newest member, Janet Hagelin. John, if you do the duties.
Manager Hagelin, please stand. Please repeat after me. I, Janet Hagelin,
I, Janet Hagelin,
having been appointed by the Anoka County, Minnesota Board of Commissioners,
having been appointed by the Anoka County Board of Commissioners,
a manager of the Rice Creek Watershed District,
a manager of the Rice Creek Watershed District,
do swear
that
that I will support the constitutions
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and discharge faithfully
and discharge faithfully
the duties of Watershed District Manager
the duties of Watershed District Manager
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my judgment and ability.
and to the best of my judgment and ability.
My appointment commencing February 17th, 2026,
My appointment commencing February 17th, 2026,
and expiring on January 17th, 2028.
and expiring on January 2028,
Or as soon thereafter,
or soon thereafter,
as the Anoka County Board of Commissioners
as the Anoka County Board of Commissioners
makes a new appointment for my position on the board.
makes a new appointment for my position on the board.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So it is with great pleasure that I can say roll call. We have, for the first time in a substantial period of time, all five of us present as managers, along with, of course, our excellent staff. And the first thing is we have open mic, where any Rice Creek Watershed District resident may address the board in his or her individual capacity for up to 3 minutes on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are requested to come to the podium, state their name and address to the record. Additional comments may be solicited and accepted in writing. Generally, the Board of Managers will not take action on items discussed at this time, but may refer the matter to staff for further report or direct that the matter be scheduled on an upcoming meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to use their opportunity for an open mic discussion? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Terry O'Connell. I live in Iowa Lakes, 1000 Main Street, and thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to say I'm so glad to see that Janet from Columbus is on the board. We keep a Columbus person on the board, because sometimes I think Columbus just gets shuffled off to oblivion in a lot of state kind of positions. That makes sense. Okay. The other thing is now when you say agenda, does that include the items on the, what am I trying to say here? The stormwater management program?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
then
for
I'll-
example, when we discuss the stormwater management, if there's something you need to bring to our attention,
Okay.
that would be the appropriate time.
Okay, that's what I wanted to double check. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public? Seeing no one, we will move on to the rest of our agenda. Oh, yes, I'm supposed to note, our newest member, Janet Hagelin, Manager Hagelin, has further commitments which predated her appointment to our board and will be leaving us in about 10 minutes. So her visit, the fact that she storms out of here will have nothing to do with anything.
Bad optics, I know.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I know we're at that point about setting the agenda. We do have an item on the agenda for an appointment of Manager Hagelin to an officer position.
Oh, we could do that
And we
first.
might want to do that before she departs.
Excellent suggestion. So, other than moving that one item on our agenda, are there any additions to the agenda?
Staff have no adjustments.
Any managers have an adjustment? If not, then we will move to appointments. Each manager on this board serves a function in addition to being the manager of the board. Currently, all of the normal positions have been assigned, except for second vice president. But there's also a tradition normally of bringing the newest manager on as our secretary. But we don't want to remove our existing secretary without her
Oh,
approval.
goodness, listen, whatever y'all think is best is fine with me. I really have no opinion on any of this. We're just happy to have you, so.
Thank you.
We are. So if I could, since at least for all the period I've been on this board, the newest person comes in as secretary. The good news is, that's the person that does all the work. But you are responsible for signing our orders and motions and things.
Okay.
So I would move that we appoint Janet Hagelin as our secretary and Manager Robertson as our second vice president. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations,
Thank
Secretary.
you.
Congratulations, Second Vice President. That then, I believe, takes us to approval of minutes. Would you please do that? for
Yeah,
us?
I would be happy to make that motion, Mr. Chair. I would move to approve the minutes from the February 9, 2026 workshop and the February 11, 2026 regular meeting. Technically, this would be what you would be doing, but
Okay.
we'll go ahead and
Perfect.
ease you on in.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'm just abstaining because I was not here. Thank you.
Just as for it's part of your continuing education, the fact you weren't here would not have precluded you if you'd read the minutes
Yes.
from joining in. So but that's fine. You have abstained. That takes us, Patrick. Whenever you need to leave, just go. Okay.
Yep, President Bradley, Board of Managers, staff have one permit application for your consideration today. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions about item 26-001, James and Kathleen Nelson Ravine Properties in Lino Lakes? I see we have people in the audience here of interest, and if you have a concern or want to make a statement, this would be your opportunity. Otherwise, you can just sit there and enjoy it. It's about to get approved. Any discussion?
Well,
questions, Patrick?
because we have, Mr. Chair, because we
Yeah.
have people in the audience, can you just do an overview of this permit application and how we actually?
Yeah.
We've had a request that you enhance your microphone.
Oh,
Manager Bradley,
there we go.
thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Sorry to interrupt.
So, you've heard the request?
Yeah, so this is a permit application for residential development in Lino Lakes off of 20th Avenue. It would include 31 new single-family homes and 55 multifamily units. It's a continuation to the north from a previous permit for development from 2020, Nadu Acres. Yeah, I don't know what else to share. The project does trigger our stormwater management rule, erosion and sediment control rule. There is floodplain on the property as well. They've provided compensatory storage, and there was a wetland replacement plan as part of that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did that discussion cause any questions? If not, can I have a motion?
Well, Mr.
I move to conditionally approve pending receipt of changes the permit application noted in 26-001, James and Kathleen Nelson Ravine Properties, in accordance with the district's engineer's findings and recommendations as contained in the engineer's findings and recommendations, all contained in that engineer's report dated February 17, 2026. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Congratulations.
President
Yes.
if I could ask, in noting our next agenda item, rather lengthy, and our new manager may leave. We will need a secretary pro tem, and I would suggest that you appoint Jess based on
As
the
quickly as that left you, it came
You
back.
got rid of me, and now I'm back.
I move that we appoint Manager Robertson as Secretary Pro Tem
Sure.
for the balance of this meeting.
Happy to serve.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I almost said no just for fun, but I didn't.
I'm pouting. Okay, great.
President Bradley,
Yes.
next on the agenda is
This is
the
a public
public hearing, correct? So you'd like to recess the regular meeting?
Yes. So we are about to enter into a public hearing separate from the rest of this meeting to, based on the petition of the City of Lino Lakes to transfer a portion known as Branch 8 of Anoka County Ditch ACD 55 to the City of Lino Lakes for future management. And the first thing we will do is adjourn this meeting. So can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting to have a public hearing?
Let's recess rather than adjourn.
Let's not adjourn, thank you, John. Let's recess the public hearing to do this. And I believe that takes a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So, let me start off by reading a very lengthy, welcoming everyone to this public hearing on the petition of City of Lino Lakes to transfer a portion of Anoka County Ditch ACD 55 to the City of Lino Lakes for future management. For this hearing, the Watershed District Board of Managers is seated as the drainage authority of ACD 55. The city has petitioned to transfer Branch 8 of ACD 55. Branch 8 of ACD 55, as proposed for transfer, lies entirely within the City of Lino Lakes and terminates with its connection to the main trunk of ACD 55 on the east side of Interstate Highway 35E. The total length of the proposed transfer is approximately 4,600 feet of buried tile. In addition to receiving drainage from portions of Lino Lakes, the tile receives surface water from a portion of the City of Hugo in Washington County. Surface water drainage from City of Hugo will not be affected by this transfer. The stated purpose of the petition action is to allow the city, under its water management authorities, to manage the portion of the system proposed to be transferred for municipal stormwater purposes, to include management practices or modifications to the drainage system that facilitate development, municipal stormwater management, flood damage reduction, and water quality protection. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments from the public on the petition in order to inform the board of the public's concerns. The city must show that it is able to competently manage storm, surface, or floodwaters along that drainage system or within the benefited area of the drainage system if the transfer is authorized. To grant the petition transfer, the board must determine that storm, surface, or floodwaters along the drainage system or within the benefited area of the drainage system may be competently managed by the city, including management practices or modifications to the drainage system that facilitate development, municipal stormwater management, flood damage reduction, and water quality protection. To facilitate comments at today's hearing, notice of the time and location of this hearing was provided as required by statute 103E.812. The board accepted the petition and appointed Houston Engineering, HEI, Chris Allen is to my left, to prepare a report assessing the impact of the proposed action. Houston Engineering completed its work and filed a report with the board. The petition and the engineer's report were made available for review at the district's office and on its website in advance of this hearing and will be reviewed today. The order of business for this hearing will be as follows. First, Tom Schmidt, who's also on my left. Oh, where's Sam? He's in the audience today. Thank you, Tom. Will introduce a presentation of information related to the petition action. Mr. Schmidt will be assisted as needed by the district engineer and legal counsel. Following staff presentation, I will open the hearing for public comment. The board will like to hear public comments and concerns regarding the proposed action. Our decision must be based on the legal requirements related to the petition action, as well as the engineer's report and other evidence presented. During the public hearing, excuse me, managers may ask questions of staff or consultants in order to clarify any testimony. In addition, if a member of the public asks a question and the manager believes that a response from the district staff or a district consultant may readily resolve the question or enrich the testimony, the manager may ask me to have appropriate staff members or consultants speak to the question. Managers' expression of their positions and general discussions concerning the subject of this public hearing should be avoided during public comment. Board discussion will occur after all members of the public have had a chance to speak and the public comment period has been closed. Board discussions may occur and be concluded at this or a subsequent meeting as the board decides. Would any board member wish to offer any further remarks before we begin? Any comments by anyone? All right. Mr. Schmidt, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board of Managers. The President's noted, the engineer has a short presentation on the proposed transfer and overview of his report. So Chris, you present that?
Yes. Mr. President, members of the board, so the location we're talking about here is a portion of Anoka County Ditch 55, and it's specifically the portion that's referred to as Branch 8 of the drainage system. You can see on the map here that this is located on the east side of Lino Lakes, just to the east of Centerville, and it's primarily on the east side of 35E, although there is a portion of Branch 8 that crosses underneath 35E as well. So we received the petition, and this is something that the board had received and authorized to move forward with the proceeding a couple of meetings ago. And the petition was from the City of Lino Lakes to transfer management of the authority of portions of ACD 55 to the city under statute 103E812. So again, the petition is not for the entire system, just for Branch 8. And that Branch 8 is approximately 4,600 feet in length. Again, does not include the main trunk and open channel that will remain under the authority of Rice Creek. This is another map that shows a little greater detail where this system is on the map shown on the screen here. It's the kind of teal colored line that is to the east of 35E there. We have some directional arrows that show the flow. Again, it flows generally from east to west entirely as tile until it hits the newer tile that was constructed along the east side of the Watermark development, and then proceeds there to flow to the south until it discharges into Judicial Ditch 3 or Clearwater Creek. Other thing I'll point out on this map is that there's that other kind of bright blue that you can see on the map, that big blob. That is the watershed that goes into Branch 8 of ACD 55. And you'll note here that it includes primarily land that is within Lino Lakes, but it does also go across the border, Anoka-Washington border into Hugo. So there's a portion of Hugo that drains into Branch 8. This portion of Hugo is never included on the benefit roll for ACD 55. And that land is well above the tile elevation, so anything that would occur on the tile is not really going to affect the lands that are in the Hugo side. They just drain their water over in that direction. So under the statute, there are a few things that we need to review and consider as we're looking at the transfer. And within our report, we did consider the necessity of the transfer for the orderly management of storm, surface, floodwaters and for other water quality purposes. And so in this review, we specifically looked at a few things. I already talked to you about the location of the transfer. We also looked in detail of how the city's role and Rice Creek's role are and would be with regard to the drainage system, and how our varied experiences would work in this setting to manage the system. And then we also looked at our respective responsibilities in water quality management along the system and how that affects the potential decision to transfer the system. And then ultimately we look at the effect that proceeding would have in transferring the system from Rice Creek to the city. So again, we talked about that location of the drainage system. I mentioned earlier about the tributary watershed that does include portions of Hugo, but that area that is impacted by management of the tile, it really is solely within Lino Lakes. Other important thing I'll note is that the alignment and makeup of the system likely will change due to development. This is one of the instigating factors in the city's request to be transferred management of the drainage system. They have an upcoming proposed project to extend Otter Lake Road, and that would go really through the heart of that blue area on this map here, and would be crossing Branch 8 at least once, maybe multiple times. And in order to do that, in order for development to occur along this drainage system, it will require modification of that existing tile system. So the effect of the transfer, what that would mean is that the city would, effective on transfer, inspect and maintain that Branch 8 portion of the drainage system. It would do so under its existing municipal authorities rather than under 103E. 103E does not really have a provision for a management of authorities other than counties or watershed districts. The city, as an effect of this, may modify or replace the system at its own discretion. So it will be the decision maker for what happens with the system. That, of course, is subject to a variety of local, state, and federal rules, and including Rice Creek rules. So it still will need to meet Rice Creek rules with whatever it intends to do, even though it will be the authority for that drainage system. And as I mentioned before, Rice Creek will continue to manage those remaining portions of the system that are downstream from it and along Anoka County, or the main trunk. The district will no longer inspect or maintain that Branch 8 system, though. So under the drainage system management, some of the things we looked at were how this will affect work that is done adjacent to the drainage system. And as I mentioned, the city can and likely will make changes to Branch 8 outside of the drainage system to accommodate land development, to accommodate further roadway expansion. Transferring the system is consistent with the Lino Lakes Comprehensive Stormwater Management Plan. That plan, or we refer to it as the CSMP, that was developed several years ago with the anticipation of land development that has occurred in this area, both on the west and east side of I-35E. It was developed ahead of that watermark development and was necessary for that watermark development to occur. And all part of that plan was that there would need to be either an abandonment or transfer of all of the Anoka County Ditch 55 tile in some capacity in order to accommodate the full build out of the city's land use plan. So the city will still be obligated to manage the drainage system to meet the needs of the upstream landowners. So they still have that responsibility to provide the upstream landowners the benefit that they've received since the establishment of the drainage system. But again, that can be done with the replacement to an equivalent system to what's there today. It doesn't have to be the exact same system. With regard to urban stormwater infrastructure, I mentioned the city replacing most of the system. Likely it will be traditional stormwater infrastructure that will be replaced with storm sewer, ponds, open channels. It likely will not be drain tile as it is today because that wouldn't be necessary or prudent for a land use like is being proposed. The district does have limited authority to order modifications of the drainage system, but that authority is somewhat limited, and that's one of the reasons why the city is asking for this transfer, is that it has greater flexibility under its authorities to make these modifications and to initiate those modifications. The city does have an equivalent capacity to manage infrastructure as what Rice Creek has, and considering both water quantity and water quality in this area. With regard to water quality specifically, the city is subject to a variety of requirements to consider water quality and manage for it, and one of those is the MS4 permit requirements, which would limit pollutants entering the storm sewer system that would likely replace this. In addition to that, there are water quality provisions in the city's CSMP that was adopted by the district. And also, they still have to comply, of course, with Rice Creek rules. So with all these requirements, the city does adhere to objectives with regard to water quality similar to Rice Creek. Rice Creek will remain the permitting authority, and because of that, again, they're going the work that would follow this would meet those statutory MS4 requirements. So based on all this information, our conclusions are that the city does have the flexibility to modify the tile, which would be necessary to implement the city's stormwater plan and their land use plan and Rice Creek's watershed plan. In this regard, they are equipped to operate and maintain the system into the future. And so we do recommend that the district transfer authority to that petition portion of ACD 55 to the system, again, branch 8. And as part of that transfer, we do recommend that the district transfer easements that it holds over portions of the drainage system to the city following the transfer of the system. And we are aware of one easement that was provided to Rice Creek over the system as part of a land use development that occurred in this area. That's all I have for my presentation. I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Do the board members have any questions of Tom or Chris? If not, we're ready to hear from members of the public who wish to comment. Before we take public comments, I ask that any written comments be read into the record at this time. Have we received any written comments, Tom?
We have not.
All right. So any member of the public wish to speak on this request by the City of Lino Lakes? Hearing none? Where is it?
Can a non-landowner speak in that area?
Let's find out what you have to say.
Okay.
Restate your name and address, please.
Terry O'Connell, 1000 Main Street, Lino Lakes, Minnesota. You keep talking about the cities taking it over, and I'm just wondering if it's actually the city is hiring an engineering company to help them follow the rules and do this. If that is the case, and it is one engineering company that has been working on this very small area behind Lino Lakes Elementary on Main Street, proceed with caution, I would say. It's only been going on for like 2 years, this development, and the initial phase has nothing to do with water, but they did not follow the Lino Lakes lighting ordinance. It was in Lino Lakes, we have a maximum, not a mandatory lighting, a maximum. They exceeded the maximum. like in September, October, a landowner close to this area who has more than an acre of land. I only have a little acre of land. I'm not close to this area, so don't think I'm adjacent to it or anything. They woke up that their oak savanna was now underwater. Not completely underwater, but it wasn't just wet, there was water standing. I'm not an engineer, I don't know why or how this would happen, but it turns out it happened with road construction being, different things being done in the development that's being built in the second edition. And then now the last one is they are now looking, this is so totally off the, it's just, I'm trying to stress it, this is the one, watch them closely. I can understand it sounds great to have somebody else take it over because it would help the city. But the last one I just saw in the newspaper this last week is they now told a resident that lives on a street behind this thing, and it's a dead-end street, that they need to sell part of their land so they can build a road so that the new people, that they'll have a road going out of this development. So I don't know the people, I don't know any of this, it's just things I have noticed that make me cautious. They may do everything absolutely wonderful. I know the land, whatever that, Lennar Homes that you mentioned, it was, it's done very nicely. I've been in that area and it's very nicely done. So just a word of caution, that's all I'm giving you here. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone from Lino Lakes here that wishes to comment? If not,
Wait, Mr. Neer?
In the meantime, President Bradley, there's a couple of folks that are from the city that are listening online, but yes.
I'm Sylvia Merrider. I live at 1833 77th Street. My question is, 55, ditch 55 goes almost to 80th. Is the city taking over any portion of 55 in this, what they're asking today?
Chris or Tom?
Mr. President, the city would be taking over the very light colored blue portion that is shown on the map. That is a portion of ACD 55, but it's referred to as branch 8. The other dark blue line that is that is what's referred to as the main trunk of ACD 55. That would remain with Rice Creek.
And also the branch 55 that goes under the freeway, will that remain with Rice Creek?
There are two portions that go under the freeway right now, and the one that is further north would remain with Rice Creek. The one further to the south on the real light colored blue line, that bluish green line, that would be going to the city.
Sylvia, I know you have vision. Would it be easier for me to bring this paper?
No,
You can see that. Okay.
I
Just
understand.
looking.
I
Okay.
understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right.
No objections? Mr. President, I just want to be clear, Mr. President, that there was no objection here, correct?
Pardon?
You want
Ms.
to make,
Merrier, do you have an objection
or just a question?
or just a question?
Well, it's gonna affect the drainage, because 55 under the freeway is not working well. Like, I spoke with Mike Rochelle in the past, and he said that they're looking at that. So if they're looking at that, and you still have control, I mean, who's gonna make the decision on what's gonna happen? Because that drainage to 55 that goes across on the west side of E isn't working to drain out everything on the east side of 35E.
John, did you want to comment?
Yes, Mr. President, in response to Ms. Merrier, we do have a provision in the proposed order that addresses any modification of the outlet under 35E discharging to the main trunk of ACD 55, in as much as what is there today is the expected capacity. for that discharge. And again, this is part of managing the overall watershed for the district. And we basically say in the order that absent or without prior approval or authorization from the watershed district, that no modification can be made to the capacity of that outlet. So again, that would be consistent with how you permit those types of activities. So I think that Ms. Marrier's comments are addressed in the order if the board chooses to adopt it as it's currently drafted.
And as my understanding, the reason for that is so that you do not increase the downstream flow coming from that area to the rest of our system.
At least not without review by the district and approval, and then, you know, all of the other criteria that we put on those types of requests.
All right. Any other further public comments? If not, is there, at this point, I would invite comments from the board. At this point, we're going to close the public comment section of the hearing and move on to discussion by the board. Are there any discussions or comments by the board members?
Mr. President, it would maybe be more reassuring here if the engineer would explain again the transfers really to the city so that they can begin more intense development and replace it with city stormwater. And how that's going to impact there, because you're talking about
Could you move your mic closer so they could hear?
you can't hear me, Miss Marier?
Oh.
Oh, my
I didn't
gosh.
even know I was talking, so that's why I'm sorry. I don't mean to be
No.
That's all right, you're not the first one who's complained about that, so. I was asking the engineer if he would explain a little bit more, again, just for clarity, that this transfer goes to the city of Lino Lakes, and they are going to replace this with city stormwater, and how that's going to affect it. Because you're talking about your properties that are just on the east side of the freeway that are north of 14. I would guess, is that correct? Yeah, okay. And so this is already beginning to develop. I mean, we have new car washes and restaurants and grocery stores, that are going in there as they go northward. And so I just wanted the purpose here isn't to lose drainage. It's probably to make it more efficient and increase its value than what the current 6 or 8 inch tiles do. Because the city's going, I'm assuming, going to use much larger pieces of pipe, as they usually do if they put in curb and gutter and other things that are there. So I'm just asking the engineer to make a little more clarity so that you understand that and how that's going to, that impact will be more of a benefit to the drainage, I believe, than the current 8 inch tiles or 6 inch tile. I think it's 6 inch in there, maybe even 4. Mr. President.
Thank you. Patrick, I have a question for you. Normally, when we get these requests, they aren't coming from the cities, they're coming directly from the developer. Do we have a development process going on in that particular area?
No. So this is tied to the Otter Lake Road extension that the city is planning to do. So it is in anticipation of development, I would say.
All right, very good. That's my only question. Are there other questions? Chris?
Mr. President, I answered Manager Waller's question. So the what is currently being proposed in this area would include essentially storm sewer that would lead into ponds that would be located east of 35E, and then from those ponds, that's going to hold the water and then discharge it out at a smaller rate than was coming from the landscape. Right now, the city actually has an additional pipe that is under 35E that is not online yet. That leads into the large pond west of 35E on the Watermark property. That is intended under that CSMP plan to be the primary outlet for this area. And so it has a much larger capacity, and all the infrastructure downstream from there is sized to accommodate that much larger pipe. So what appears likely until the city has a replacement for the tile, they'll keep that tile in place, but once they construct that, fully get that outlet online, then we would anticipate they would likely no longer need that tile. All that flow from the area would be taken via that larger pipe and go downstream more directly to Peltier Lake.
Mr. President, yes, thank you, Chris. That's what I wanted to point out, was that this is, the water is going to go across the freeway into the housing project that's already there. And then it's going to go to Peltier Lake, but not through Clearwater Creek.
Correct.
Correct? So that's a change in how that will go, and the capacity will be much larger than what it was before. And the ponds, of course, are going to change the rate of flow there. So the Watermark property already has a pond, ponding and piping to go to Peltier Lake. So there must not be, I don't remember exactly where it is in relation to your house, Miss Marrier, but you know where it is, yeah. And so I think that's, dare I use the word, of a better, rather than say improvement, I'll say it's a better stormwater conveyance system because of the capacity and the water quality. So you'll have rate controls and such. And the other advantage to this is, in my viewpoint, I'm just going to pick out, is that it will remove some of the capacity that goes into ditch number 3 or Clearwater Creek. And we have a great deal of erosion problems when we get on the Clearwater Creek side of the west side of the freeway, in which we're building a project in there and trying to make sure that doesn't have a large sediment flow into Peltier Lake. So this flow partial will be removed from, if I'm correct, right, Chris? I think it would be removed from the Clearwater Creek because it's going to go through a piping system that goes to Peltier Lake. It's different.
Yeah, per the city's plans, and again, those are preliminary and would be subject to Rice Creek permitting.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Clearwater
Would you please go with it so we can get you on the mic? Could you please, so we can get you on the record?
I can't hear you.
We need to get you on the record. Again, and state your name.
The central portion of that 55 on the west side of the freeway, heading south to Clearwater Creek, does Centerville have the authority, or is it the Rice Creek that has that authority to keep that going?
Mr. President, yeah, that is under Rice Creek management.
Not Centerville? City of Centerville?
No, yeah, it's the Rice Creek, not the city.
Not the city.
All right. Are there any remaining questions by anyone? Please.
Just very quick, Ms. Terry, you had mentioned some things in your comments regarding lighting and right-of-way acquisition, and it's my understanding that there's not an active permit for new development. This is kind of in the context of a road project.
Yes.
When the city of Lino Lakes does receive a permit, I would make sure you attend any public hearings that they have with their planning commission, because they can put conditional uses in there, the city can, with the permit itself regarding lighting or right-of-way acquisition, or, you know, concerns that residents may have. Those can be worked in to a conditional use permit in conjunction with that development application. So I don't want your concerns to go unheard either, and I know they're kind of related and kind of not related, but I would share those thoughts with the city of Lino Lakes when a permit is applied for housing in that area.
They know my concern.
Ooh, a little troublemaker, I like it.
I'm the one that pointed out the lighting didn't
Got it.
qualify. I'm the one that drives roads. I'm the one that goes to
Yep.
lakes. I'm the one that, and I'm not, you know, so, no, they, you know, yeah.
They know, huh?
Yeah, they know, yes, yeah.
Well, remind them, like I said, maybe work with council once that application comes through, and they can add a conditional use permit and then enforce it through, you know, code enforcement based on the terms listed in that conditional use permit.
I just want to make sure, I have no idea who is actually going to be.
Got it.
With the city, so, but if it is, it was just a note of comment
to be aware.
Yep.
So I'm aware that Lino Lakes is listening in.
I know they're
Under-
listening. That's
under-
okay.
So
That's
my
me.
point
I've
is-
been
my
around
point
since
is-
67.
So my point is that under our system, unfortunately, they can't speak to us
Yes.
when they're listening because of problems we've had in the past. But I'm sure they are taking note of your comments as you speak. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anything further? If not, I would move that we adopt the findings and order transferring the portion of ACD 55 as petitioned to the City of Lino Lakes to be effective upon compliance with all conditions as required by statute section 103E.812. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I think
Aye.
there's a roll call, if I'm not
What was it?
mistaken.
Yeah, it probably is. You're
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Well, there's a resolution now.
Where's the resolution?
Page 37.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Too much paper.
I would agree.
It is Bradley, yes. Heglin, absent. Robertson,
Aye.
Waller,
Aye.
Wynant,
Yes.
and it passes 4-0 with one absent. So, with that, we can move on to our next agenda item, which is, we've already done the appointment. Matt, I think you're up. The 2026 agreement for carp management services. Thank you, Matt.
Carp management.
Mr. President, while Matt's moving along, I'm just going to note that I believe that your intent was to adjourn the hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. We can dispense with the formalities of that, but I just want to be clear in the record that that's what has occurred.
John, thank you always for keeping us on the straight and narrow. Yes, we are back into our normal meeting.
Okay, President Bradley, members of the board, thank you for having me here to provide an update on the district's park management activities and seeking board approval for 2026 contracts with our park management. So I'll be going through a few slides. This is to provide an update on some 2025 activities and where we're going in 2026. Some of this will be reviewed, so I'll skip across this rather quickly, but happy to go back and answer any questions if there are. So what I'm going to be talking about briefly today is our work on the long lake line of Chain of Lakes. This is where the district has focused its efforts on carp management in recent years. So I'll talk briefly about what we did in 2025, current status of the carp population, and then what we hope to do in 2026. I'll also talk a bit about Silver Lake. I think I was here middle of last summer. We're starting to do some more carp management work on Silver Lake. I'll provide a brief update on that and again what we hope to do in 2026. So a reminder that common carp are an invasive species, but the reason that we manage them is not because they're invasive species, but because they affect water quality. So this complex graphic here kind of shows the mechanisms by which carp impact water quality. I think we've been through that before. But just a reminder that our justification for management here is the impact on water quality, specifically algae blooms. So our work is defined by the Rice Creek Carp Management Plan, first adopted in 2018, revised in 2022. Constantly looking to revise this as necessary, but this is the plan that we look to guide our management activities. Also a reminder that our purpose, or our long-term goal, I should say, with carp management is not to eradicate them. That's impossible. There are not currently management tools out there where we can eradicate a carp population. But instead try and push them below a threshold where they impact water quality. So that threshold is right around a density of 100 kilograms per hectare. So there's plenty of lakes out there that have a very low carp population in them. They don't affect water quality. That's not a problem. But when they do affect water quality, as they did in the Long Lake Line of Chain of Lakes system, what we're doing is working to decrease the population below that threshold. So what our management plan calls for is removing half of the adult carp population every year from the Long Lake Line of Chain of Lakes system, suppress reproduction by blocking access to nursery areas, We're looking for tools that check our 3 boxes of effective, efficient, and reliable. And we have to constantly be flexible in the way that we approach this. And I think 2025 highlights our flexibility is necessary, and I'll get into that. So in 2025, we're continuing to use our electronic guidance system, or electric barrier. So as carp are migrating from Long Lake to the Lino chain of lakes, we're intercepting them, capturing them in a trap, and removing them. The majority of the carp population does move from Long Lake to the Lino chain of lakes system every year. So this pinch point in the system gives us an opportunity to capture and remove them. Here's an aerial view of what this site looks like. So Long Lake is up in this photo to the west, but up in the photo. And Rice Creek is flowing up toward Long Lake. So the carp are migrating from the top of the screen towards the bottom of the screen. They encounter the electric barrier, which you can see stretched across the stream. The barrier guides them into the trap, which is kind of that big rectangular structure there, and then from the trap they're removed. The board is also aware that we installed a physical barrier on Johanna Creek. We had our city-county partner meeting here a few years ago and got to see this new physical barrier. So this is no electronic here, this is just a physical barrier. And this blocks fish from accessing like the E2 wetland complex to the south of Long Lake. I mentioned how we have to be flexible in our application of our management plan, constantly adapting as the park adapts to our management activities. We had some pretty significant flooding in 2024. Here's what the barrier looked like under those flood conditions. And we could actually see that carp were able to hop up and over that barrier in 2024 in a few locations. So the first response would be here, couldn't we just make the barrier bigger? The answer is no. If we cut off more of this cross section, it would potentially cause flooding upstream. You'd be reducing the flow through the system. But because the carp are kind of aiming for that edge of the system, they can actually see the edge of the top of that barrier. How we were adapting is now adding these jump guards, as we call them, onto the system. So we can't physically make this barrier any bigger, but we can make slight modifications in the future to try and prevent further upstream migration if there's enough flood. So here's a review. Again, this is the Long Lake Lino chain of lakes system going back to 2016 up to present day. The number of carp removed each year and the percentage of the population removed. Since 2016, we've removed nearly 58,000 carp. That's roughly 405,000 pounds or 202 tons of carp from the system. So it's a lot. You'll see in 2025 those removal numbers are way down. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but that's in large part due to the population being much smaller now, so there's fewer carp to remove. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But just to show you where we're at with the carp density. So there are far fewer carp in the system. We've seen about an 86% reduction in the carp population in the system, going from 670 kilograms per hectare now down to about 92. So we are below our goal. We are meeting our long-term goal right now in the Long Lake Lino chain of lakes system. That's great. So our current status, we remained at our long-term management goal, but the efficiency of our operation has been dropping somewhat. I mentioned that we only managed to remove about 18% of the population this past year. A couple of reasons for that. One, the fish did not migrate as aggressively as they typically do in 2025. We don't know why, but we do know that this was a region-wide issue. So this wasn't just an issue in Rice Creek, but across the region, the carp seemed not to migrate up Rice Creek or throughout the region as aggressively as they have in the past. Also, as we think about the population getting smaller, it's going to be harder and harder to get 50% of the population. I think if you got the population down to 100 individuals, getting 50 of those 100 out of this huge system is going to be more difficult. But we are maintaining our long-term goal, so we're happy about that. Also, the costs of this program are declining. We're down about 40% in costs since we started. And this matches what kind of conceptually how we envision this program to run long-term. So this is my rough sketch here of how we kind of envision this carp program to run. If you think about this over time, our relative effort or cost going into the program. Of course, as we're doing that, starting out with diagnosis and feasibility, costs are ramping up. We supplemented our program with grant dollars from the state to purchase infrastructure, or purchase equipment, build infrastructure. But then over time, what we hope to see is that program costs would go down, and we're kind of entering a long-term operation and monitoring phase. We are seeing that, and I think that's the phase that we're in right now. So our work plan, what we're seeking to do on the Long Lake Line of Chain Lake system in 2026, continue to remove carp from the migration system on Rice Creek. Summer box netting is needed, so there's another tool that we use to remove carp is box netting in the lake. We can attract the fish with corn and then remove them with nets. That was surprisingly effective. We were able to switch some of our efforts from the barrier to box netting in 2025, and that worked out quite well. So having that flexibility was key. We put that into our contract with the consultant here. We'll continue to remove fish at the Lake Johanna barrier, which is what we see in that photo down to the right. We continue to monitor migrating fish and survey the population. So in the Long Lake Line or Chain of Lake system, we work primarily with Carp Solutions, also a smaller company called Always Fish. They help us maintain the electric barrier. So the contract with Always Fish you don't see here today, that's a very small contract that gets approval from the administrator. So really what you're seeing towards the end of this presentation and in the packet is a contract with Carp Solutions. Quickly now on Silver Lake. We talked about Silver Lake this past summer. I think you've heard from some residents of Silver Lake that they're very supportive of doing more carp management there. What we did this past summer was a population survey. We saw that the population was way up, now at about 200 kilograms per hectare and rising. We've been seeing water quality decline at the same time. Algae blooms are getting much worse compared to past years. And what we were finding from this summer's work is that we have confirmation that carp are migrating into adjacent ponds. So if you can see my pointer there are some ponds to the north and east of Silver Lake, and we got confirmation that carp do migrate up into those ponds likely to spawn. We're seeing many younger, smaller fish. That's what's shown in the graph in the lower right there. That's a graph showing the age of fish, and we had a huge bump about age 2 fish. Lots of small fish in the system. That's concerning. That's likely due to a fish kill, a winter fish kill we had on Lake a couple of years ago. So all of this is telling us that in order to improve water clarity in Silver Lake, management of these carp is required. So our work plan for Silver Lake in 2026, we're looking at blocking access to those stormwater ponds, monitoring migration at that culvert in between ponds, removing adult fish with box nets. We think this is going to be an efficient activity in 2026. And that would be work that would be done by Carp Solutions and is included in the proposal that you see in your packet, and also a population survey. I think it's likely that we'll also have a small contract with WSB, but that would be coming at a future board meeting, and you can see that. I should note, and this was in my memo here, but all of the costs that are proposed fit within the already approved budget, so this is not, quote unquote, new money here. This is part of the approved budget. Costs fit within that. I think that's what I have. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, there is a motion on page 41.
John?
Marcy, go
Marcy?
Is anyone from St. Anthony or New Brighton online from the city or the lake group?
No. You said no.
No? Okay. I would just report that I was on a meeting with the Lake Association and Matt and Nick, and Matt did an excellent job in presenting not only the program of carp removal, but also how the system works with the board. So I'd just like to point out that Matt is ever so,
Good.
Good. He's ever so good at explaining the complexities of how this works. So after questions, I would be prepared to make
All
the
right.
motion.
Are there any questions?
I
of
think
Matt?
John had one here.
John? Yeah, I'm sorry.
if you want. Good morning, Matt. You said that there's a decrease in the carp to 100 kilos kilograms or 220 pounds per acre. How did you know that?
President Bradley, Manager Waller, how did we know that the carp population
Yeah.
is below 100 kilograms per acre?
Yeah,
With population surveys.
okay.
So there's two separate population surveys. There's one done with an electrofishing boat, and then there's another done with what's called marker capture with box nets. Both of those actually came to a fairly consistent or similar population estimate this year.
And so did that decrease, how do you determine that 100 kilograms is the level we need to achieve? You know, what makes that the magic number?
Yep.
Why not 50?
Yep, President Bradley, Manager Waller, it is our goal to say that it's a magic number is a little bit of a stretch, but it is based on research from the University of Minnesota, Shemek Bezier, who's actually the owner of Carp Solutions, the contractor that we work with. It's based on research that they did at the University of Minnesota.
All right, well, as you know, I look at this program a little differently than you do. You call it a water quality program, and I call it an erosion control program. Because these carp can root out vegetation in the lake as deep as 18 inches. And so that's an important point there. And so that brings me to this other issue, question I had was, how do you know you only had 18% that was removed? You know, you're talking about, is that again based on your fish population survey?
As President Bradley, Manager Waller, so for the past year, we removed 18% of the existing population in the system. So we know what the population, we got an estimate of the population in the system. We know how many fish we removed. It was 18% of the population.
Yeah, it seems kind of low. I mean, that's, I was hoping. The other thing is, are we getting to the point where the bigger fish are gone and where the little fish, maybe we don't catch them in our systems? You know what I mean by this, the minnow size?
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Waller, the population size has shifted to smaller fish and younger fish. But when you're asking about the minnow-sized fish or young of the year or age 1 fish, we actually do surveys in upstream systems looking for that reproduction in those age 0 or age 1 fish. And we haven't been seeing it. So for example, this past year, the contract included a survey in the E2 wetland and a survey in Rice Lake and along Lake Line of Chain Lake system. When we started doing these surveys in 2014, 2015, you could turn on an electrofishing boat in either one of those systems and find as many year 0 carp as you want to capture. Now we find none. So that's telling us, not that they don't exist, but that they exist in such small numbers that we're effectively controlling the reproduction of the population.
So over the years, and we've been doing this for, 10, 12 years maybe? Actually, we've been doing it for 20, but we used to put the nets under the ice and that's kind of idea. But one of the things that was talked about or more was going upstream to where these spawning carp spawn. And so in my clumsy manner of explanation, it's kind of like the salmon go upstream to their particular area. I believe was a discovery or, how are we working on that program, that concept to expand it just beyond the chain of lakes and Silver Lake maybe to other areas? Because, we have theoretically the carp barrier called the Peltier Dam.
Yep, President Bradley, Manager Waller, we're focused on areas of the district where we think the carp population is having the most impact. Upstream on the chain of lakes, we have Peltier Lake. We have talked with the DNR and others, and we're constantly looking at fishery surveys to see if there's any indication that the carp population might cause a problem there. Right now, the indication is that they're not. Even further upstream is Clear Lake in City Forest Lake. We've worked with them in the past to do some carp removal. We're fairly confident that the population is low and not increasing there. So we have focused our efforts on different parts of the district, but we kind of go where the problem is.
Okay, and so I remember many, many years ago that there was a kerfuffle about using certain kinds of poisons up in, I think in Mud Lake, I thought it was at the time. And we haven't, at least with my time on this board, we have not used any kind of chemical treatment for that. So if you found the carp population is in Mud Lake in that area, the Clear Lake's on the upstream from it, but how about in Mud? Anything up there at all, or?
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Waller, we haven't done a carp population survey in Mud
Oh, right.
and Howard Lake, but we do water quality monitoring in Howard Lake. If the carp population moved up above that tipping point, we would see the response in water quality. Right now, we're seeing good water quality in that system. So that really felt the need to do a carp population survey. But there was a rotenone application, which is the general fish toxicant that you referenced, in the Howard Lake and Mud Lake system, what was that, roughly 20 years ago?
25, I think. It's before I was on the board. I remember that it was quite a discussion item. The other thing about it is, what about lakes that aren't connected necessarily with the stream, such as Onika and Hugo, or Onika's landlocked, and we have several landlocked lakes like that. Now, Onika is going to become more and more of a recreational lake because, one, they have public access that's there, and two, that the city of Hugo is growing and more people are there to use it. Have we looked at any of these, our lakes that are, say, landlocked, such as like in Washington County, there'd be a couple like Pine Tree Orchard's got one up there, and there's Sunfish Lake or Sunset, whatever it is, in Hugo. And I'm sure there must be a couple others that are here and there.
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Waller, we do water quality monitoring in all of those
Okay,
lakes.
all right.
Generally speaking, if the carp population was high enough to be causing that water quality problem, we would be detecting it in that monitoring program. So we haven't done carp population surveys there, but that would be one of the tools that we would use if we started to see any water quality degradation.
So water quality testing is the advanced notice of erosion control methods being failed. Okay. Thank you, Matt. As you know, I am a supporter of the program and have been for a long time. And I think it's been an effective use of money in the district. And as I say, a marvelous erosion control program.
Are there further questions?
No, Mr. Chair, actually, I would move to authorize the administrator to enter into said professional service agreement with Carp Solutions LLC for an amount not to exceed $115,940. Administrator is also further authorized to approve contract amendments not to exceed 15% of the original contract price or the amount of $17,391.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, Matt. I think you got the next item, too. Curly leaf.
Yes, President Bradley, members of the board, the Rice Creek Watershed District's Curly Leaf Pond Weed Management Program is next up. The Watershed District has been managing curly leaf pondweed in lakes across the watershed for longer than I've been in the district, 20, 25, 30 years even. Started with physical removal with harvesters many years ago. More recently, we've been using herbicides to control this invasive species. Reminder again, just like with carp, the reason that we manage curly leaf pondweed is their impact on water quality. So they are an invasive species, but the justification for our management is that they are detrimental to water quality. This is all defined in our invasive species policy, which is the flow chart represents it on the left-hand side of the This does mean that with other AIS, this is just a reminder now with relation to our policy, other AIS, the district does not do active management. So that doesn't mean that we do nothing, but for species like Eurasian water milfoil, zebra mussels, things like that, the district generally is not expending dollars to actively manage those species. Again, this is consistent with our the district's watershed management plan and our AIS policy. So again, those species linked to water quality degradation, curly-leaf pondweed, common carp, not linked to grazing water milfoils, even mussels. The reason that curly-leaf pondweed is linked to water quality is their unique life cycle. So they are what we would call a winter annual. They start growing late in the season. If you look at that figure at the bottom of the screen there, they start growing late in the fall, survive under the ice, grow like crazy in the spring, and then they die in the middle of the summer. And all of that accumulated material then degrades and releases nutrients into the water column at precisely the worst time of the year, in the summer heat when we have algae blooms. So that is the justification. We're I'm constantly looking at scientific research to make sure that there is sufficient scientific evidence that links curly-leaf pondweed and water quality degradation. That is still the case, although we continue to check in with folks at the University of Minnesota and look at other research across the country to make sure that that is there. One thing that we're noting in our monitoring data is that management of curly-leaf pondweed alone does not seem to be enough to make significant gains in water clarity. So for example, Rochinell Lake, the city of Lino Lakes, we've been doing curly-leaf pondweed management there for many years. We effectively have curly-leaf pondweed under control now, and yet we haven't really seen a positive response in water clarity. So what this tells us is that management of curly-leaf pondweed really should be part of a larger strategy. So managing stormwater, looking at carp impacts, looking at sediment phosphorus release, and so forth. Our curly-leaf pondweed management program now, shifting to kind of how we run our program, this is a partnership with local groups like lake associations. It's a 50-50 cost share. Local groups like the Lake Association pay 50%, the Watershed District pays 50%. And this is based on need. So it's not just based on interest from groups, but based on need every year as we do our annual spring surveys. So the contract or the cost amount that we're looking at today represents not an actual cost, but an estimated cost based on what we think we're going to find, or really more of a worst case scenario. So our 2026 budget is $40,000. The estimated cost for the district, just the district this year, are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $25,000, we think. This is based on, again, this will be based on what we find with our spring surveys as we go out and look for curly-leaf pondweed. When we go to do the management, that is the herbicide application, the district pays all upfront costs, so we're paying the applicator, and then we're getting reimbursement from Lake Association partners after that. One thing I want to draw your attention to, in my memo, the motion that I was looking for was looking at herbicide treatment costs not to exceed $40,000. What I'm going to be asking the board for today is to move that up to $50,000. So you're looking at the budget, it's $40,000, and you're looking at my proposed motion. Aren't we going to go over budget? No, again, the district pays these upfront costs and then gets reimbursed. So we might temporarily go over budget, but as we're getting reimbursed from Lake Association, district actual costs, even a worst case scenario of around $25,000, we won't be over budget at the end of the year. Just to give you an example of how these surveys and treatments work, here's Clear Lake on the left side. We've done some very limited treatment of curly-leaf pondweed and low cost in recent years, partnering with that Lake Association. Peltier Lake on the right, a bit more aggressive, treating more acreage there. But we have agreements in place with each of those groups to split these costs 50-50. Here's a couple of other examples for smaller lakes. I want to make a point about this here. This is Silver Lake on the left and Golden Lake on the right. In each of these maps, you'll notice a hashed area. On the Silver Lake map on the left, it's in red. On the Golden Lake map on the right, it's in black, but they represent the same thing. They represent a buffer going 150 feet out from the shoreline. So currently, the district's policy is that when we do these cost share arrangements, we're partnering on offshore treatments outside 150 feet from the shoreline. The reason is that DNR permits require permission from each of those landowners to go within 150 feet. So the district, in the past, and I'm recommending we stick with this, sees this as kind of the area of homeowner choice or responsibility. One of the reasons that I'm recommending that we stick with this, there's a bit of controversy going on right now on Lake Minnetonka. This just started this past year. This is more so in relation to your original water milfoil management, but there's been a little bit of a pushback there to some, what residents see as very aggressive management of aquatic invasive species, potentially to the point, what some residents are saying, to harming native plants, potentially declining fishery conditions, things like that. So what I see this debate on Lake Minnetonka is doing is reinforcing our existing policies. That means we're only focusing on invasive species, primarily curly-leaf pondweed, and we're working as hard as we can to protect native plants. We're not over-treating, we're treating as little as possible, and we're not treating within 150 feet of the shoreline, viewing that as kind of the area of homeowner choice and responsibility. So with that, we have two motions on page, what was that, 49? Yes, thank you. Again, I'm asking that the board make that second motion, total cost not to exceed $50,000. Happy to answer your question.
Any questions of Matt?
Mr. Bruce.
John?
Yes. So, Matt, in the past, some of these lake associations have harvested curly leaf pond with mechanical means, and that really spreads it, I think, the roots in the bottom of it.
I'd be happy to testify that it's a disaster, but go ahead.
Thank you, sir. And they can do this almost without, with just the Department of Natural Resources Authority, I reckon. But I'm happy to see we're not providing any funding for those kinds of programs this year. But is there anything we can do to discourage our lake associations from on their own going out there and doing they're just making the problem worse?
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Waller, when lake associations come to us seeking counsel or advice, we're giving them honest responses about past performance of whether it's curly leaf pond harvesting or doing our milfoil, the challenges there. The past, at least 5 years, I'm unaware of any harvesting.
Well, so Birch Lake under Volmous has a strange one where they only harvest around the edge of the lake to create a path so boats could go around it. And I think he got an award or something from the Watershed, Minnesota. So I'm just curious. They haven't done that in the last year, I don't think. If you're familiar with that one.
I'm not aware of that program.
Okay.
I know that there have been other plant harvesting programs that
Yeah.
sometimes have been seen as like a water quality benefit, but we haven't been doing that.
Okay.
Rice Creek Watershed.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Question, Matt, would you go back to the picture of Silver Lake in the 150 feet shoreline? So try this again. If the landowner has 150 feet of lake area that he or she can control?
Yes. Manager Bradley, Manager Wine, in order for somebody to do a large-scale treatment that goes within 150 feet or very near the shoreline, homeowner signatures or permission is required. In order for that permit to be granted. So many years ago, the district tried to work with individual homeowners and garner signatures all the way around the lake. Found that to be inefficient. And again, so now we're focused on those offshore treatments and telling homeowners, you're free to get a permit and treat your shoreline if you like.
And Manager Wine, there are private companies competing for that business of doing your 150 feet.
Okay, so since we just talked about Silver Lake with carp, and now I'm looking at this map, what's the relationship here, and with $50,000 going to Silver Lake to take care of their carp, is there some additional leverage or conditions that homeowners should be considering? And you don't have to answer that now, but I mean, it just seems like there might be some overlap to get the best impact of not only managing curly leaf, but carp at the same time.
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Wyman, the homeowners there, you know, if they feel like they have an invasive plant problem on their shoreline, they're gonna get their own permit and do that.
Okay.
In terms of, you know, working with them to ensure the best possible outcome, you know, we have had some discussions or thinking internally, might we ever modify our program in the future? You know, one example might just be a straight reimbursement. So instead of the district taking the lead on these treatments, say, Lake Association, if you want to set up your own treatment areas and go within 150 feet of the shoreline and get those permits and that permission, you're free to do that. The district will reimburse you 50%, kind of shifting the process into the Lake Association's court, so to speak. The downside of that is that the district tends to get better pricing for treatment because of the volume discount and because we're like a sole source invoicer. So it's a question of cost efficiency and getting with the association more way.
Okay, thank you.
So Matt, my question is for Bald Eagle Lake. In the past, you've had money left over from the WMD. Have we used that money up yet?
Yeah, President Bradley, no, we've not. There's
Okay.
still leftover dollars from the past special tax district, water management district,
And-
and that is used to cover Bald Eagle's half of the
Okay.
common street.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair. Matt, is there, I'm assuming, when it comes to the cost share, some type of application that's submitted to the district? Like, so there's checks and balances in place. I heard as part of your presentation, like, for true water clarity or quality, like, the curly leaf pond management is just one of multiple things that needs to happen. So do we factor that in when we're like, sure, we'll cost share half, but we want to ensure that if we're contributing half, that you are doing, that there's other things in place. It's not just this one thing to put a Band-Aid on a very icky problem.
Yeah, President Bradley, Manager Robertson, that's a good question. Right now, it's basically the district taking the initiative on those other things. You know, as we're working with these lake associations, we're telling them, or we're reminding them there are water quality grant programs to treat stormwater in your yard or in your neighborhood, trying to push them toward
Right.
that. For example, on Washington Lake, we think the carp might be an issue there. There might be some other loading issues there. And as we move toward management, we're going to feel good that we have currently the economy under control. That's a fair point. Federal
Yeah. No, I was gonna say maybe just a conversation as we get into budget planning for 2027 is just really take a comprehensive look at what it is, because you don't wanna just throw money at a problem that you're really not fixing. If we're going to stand on water quality, then we should be able to produce that type of result for the investment of dollars that are coming from the watershed. So maybe just, whether that is, an education with the lake associations, with residents, or it's just a more comprehensive application process for those who want assistance from the watershed for this in particular type of management, maybe worth a more robust conversation.
Manager Robertson, I like that idea.
Excellent. I love filling up workshops, so perfect.
Excuse me.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd be prepared to move the motion if we're ready.
Thank you.
Okay, I move to authorize the administrator to enter into cost share agreement with lake associations for curly leaf pond weed treatment in 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion?
I think we did that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 There's a process.
And Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the administrator to enter into professional service agreements for herbicide treatment of curly leaf pondweed with the total cost not to exceed $50,000.
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. 4-0. I believe we are up to Will on Stormwater Management Grant Program applications. Welcome, Will.
Thank you, President Bradley, board managers. as noted, for your consideration this morning, I have final recommendations for the 2026 stormwater management program. And what I'll be going over this morning will be a quick recap again of the program and application summaries that we have for this year, the application rankings, and then staff funding recommendations and next steps.
Here it is.
So yeah, we did, this year we received a total of 6 applications from 4 of our communities. Those applications were submitted ahead of the deadline of December 30th. Applications consist of one application from Lionel Lakes for the purchase of a regenerative air sweeper used for the implementation of an advanced street sweeping program by the city. One application from the city of New Brighton for the construction of an overflow pond overflow pipe for Noble Pond to help alleviate some local flooding issues. 2 applications from the city of Arden Hills around the Parkway area, one consisting of the construction of a stormwater pond and the other for the construction and installation of sump manholes and sample apples. And then 2 applications from Shoreview, those being for the conversion of an existing sand filter to an iron hand sand filter, and then the partial replacement of a roadway with pervious pavers. For this program year, the budget was increased from $300,000 to $400,000. Those funds coming from the district's ad valorem tax levy. And the total requested funds from those 6 applications coming out to $499,616.50. So as with previous years, these applications were reviewed by 3 distinct groups, those being district staff, Houston Engineering, as well as the Citizen Advisory Committee. So the table here, you can see these are the scores and ratings of those applications across those 3 groups, as well as the cumulative score and rank on the far right in bold. So we have the Lionel Lakes application ranked 1, followed by the Arden Hills stormwater pond application, Shoreview's pervious pavers application, and then Arden Hills sample apple application, the Shoreview iron and sand filter, and then the New Brighton application. So then, yes, noted with the program, with the total requested funds exceeding the program budget by close to $100,000. Staff used the project rankings to prepare some recommended funding awards here. So you can see here with Lionel Lakes would be, its staff recommendation would be for the full award requested amount of $100,000. For the Arden Hills applications, because both of the BMPs will be installed as part of the same larger roadway project, they were reviewed and scored separately, but staff's recommendation would be that total awarded funds between those 2 projects not exceed the $100,000 cap to be in compliance with district program guidelines. The 2 Shoreview applications scoring in the which scored more in the middle. Those proposed funding amounts are for $75,000 each, and then New Brighton would receive remaining program funds of $50,000. So yeah, just as far as next program steps go, would be today for board's consideration of that proposed funding option. If board finds those amounts reasonable, the next step would be the adoption of the funding resolution, which is 26-04. And then from there, staff would proceed to prepare those cost share agreements and coordinate with the signatures with the applicants. I'm happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Well, I have some questions I've previously submitted to the administrator. I hope they got forwarded to you. But Do we know if the applicants agree to proceed if we modify the grant amounts as proposed?
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, so with the program application forms, there is a section under the requested funding amounts that says, asks whether an applicant would be open to receiving less than what was requested. Staff did confirm that those, for all those applications, that section was marked yes, and then for the applications with those recommended adjusted amounts, staff did follow with them via email after the public hearing meeting on the 11th, and then received confirmation from those applicants they would still be proceeding in the adjusted amounts.
Very good. So Lino Lakes Enhanced Street Sweeper, in the past, we've only funded 50% of the incremental cost of a enhanced street sweeper compared to a regular street sweeper. Do you know what the delta is between the enhanced street sweeper that Lino Lakes wants and a traditional street sweeper?
I do not. I guess just to provide a bit more context for that previous application that you noted, President Bradley, that was, is noted in that application, that was, city was requesting that difference as part of a broader replacement effort to upgrade further equipment. For the Lino Lakes application, this would not be a replacement of the existing sweeper, it would be the purchase of a secondary sweeper that would be used in tandem with the existing, the capital sweeper the city currently has.
So you're treating the entire sweeper as an incremental cost,
Right.
rather than just the enhanced cost?
Right.
Okay. Arden Hills, the Carth Lake proposal has, as you've said, two projects. You've combined them basically into a single project of $100,000. I'm just trying to figure out whether or not the Saffel baffles, does that water from the Saffel baffles go to the pond they're building? So, or is that water going separately, so they really are two projects?
Yes, so the Saffel baffles would, one would discharge to Carth Lake itself, and then the other one would discharge through the involved with a adjacent wetland. So they are not within the proposed stormwater basin itself, but are proposed under the same broader maintenance management project by the city.
All right. So the New Brighton proposal. First of all, I found it quite confusing as written, but as I understand it, the city of New Brighton is considering building a complete new stormwater system. Some of the stormwater goes into catchments. Eventually, water goes into holding ponds or ponds, plural. It looked to me like it was a brilliant idea. I mean, it looked to me like instead of saying to us, can't you make your ditch deeper and wider, we'll take care of the stormwater problem. We just need some financial assistance on our stormwater new system. If I've understood that problem, and then I'll start with that, did I understand what they're doing correctly?
Correct. So the Knollwood Pond, it does receive runoff discharge from a stormwater outlet pipe. That pond, and the pond itself does not have a current outlet itself. So the New Brighton proposal would be to construct that new pipe to tie into the existing storm sewer structure.
So that looks to be like a solution that you could use other places besides just there. I mean, I don't know whether or not there's something you could do in 102232, for example, where we've been trying to figure out how to get more capacity out of our ditch. Instead of trying to get more capacity out of our ditch, you say to the city, please build a stormwater support system and we'll help fund that. I mean, am I right that this is something, Mr. Minister?
Right, thank you, President Bradley. Board of Managers, a key distinction between the reference to this project in ACD 102232 is the storm event that's being addressed. Here, the city is looking to address the 100-year, the critical event, the endangerment of structures by flooding, whereas public drainage system and others are at drainage or a 5-year storm event. It's the intent of the city's work, as we read their application, is not to make the landowner's property dry, but prevent the pond in that critical event from encroaching on the structure further.
So it's a fine detail that doesn't seem to matter to me.
Okay.
We've got flooding, and they've come up with a stormwater solution to address flooding rather than saying to us, dig a ditch. And to me, that's a nice proposal.
Yeah.
And I would have, if I were judging these, have given them more money. And I would have taken that money out of the enhanced street sweeper and/or the Carth Lake.
Yeah.
But that, I'm now happier that at least a part of that is 2 projects instead of a single project. So I'm just saying, I think that's a really great proposal, and we ought to know and let our members know that if they're having flooding problems and they want to build a stormwater solution to that flooding problem, we're on board with that. That's all I'm trying to say. I thought this was great.
So, Mr. President, so I understand this correctly, you think this could be used other places?
It's possible, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, quick question. During the public hearing, specifically on the New Brighton, we had that resident here who had basically, a lot of standing water in his yard due to flooding issues. Did we ever circle back with that gentleman and either indicate whether this type of project would, reconcile the flooding issues he's having or put a dent in the flooding issues he's having? Because it makes me sad when people come in here and you see pictures of their yard and they're talking about the foundation of their home being destroyed and things like this. Did we ever circle back with that gentleman and find some kind of...
Chris volunteered.
Mike, here's the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Maybe we could start with Nick first.
President Bradley, Manager Robertson, yes, we did circle back, and I think Will be able to provide some of that detail there. And each of you has utilized the term flooding. And again, my key point is flooding based on what event? What does the water do when it rains a little? What does the water do when it rains a lot? The district's watershed management plan, in its efforts, in its mission and goals, is always about the critical event, the 100-year, the regional effect, the FEMA regulated elevation that our cities see. While we do have an obligation on our public drainage system, and the similarities or comparisons that were noted, maybe we could do this on 10/22/32. So our engineer did explore, what if we put greater capacity under the noted street, Joe Drell? And it's like, it doesn't move the needle for the small storm event. So it's very important, and maybe Chris can elaborate on it, maybe I'm not communicating it clearly, but what storm you're looking at is vitally important in how or what you're trying to address. And obviously, the regulations that we're subject to also come into play, which is where I think the city put it. We can't drain the pond, but we can alleviate the critical storm that's
Can I follow up really
accumulating.
quickly?
Yes, please.
So I hear what you're saying. I think it frustrates me a little bit because I feel like sometimes I do not receive this personally, okay? It's not directed at you. I feel sometimes we hide behind regulation and rules and technical definitions of flooding and storm event and how did the water fall from the sky. I really don't give a crap how it came from the sky and in what amount. This man's yard is, it's basically uninhabitable. That's the point it's getting to. There has to be some component. I'll use the example loosely, metaphorically, of like curly leaf pondweed, right, is only part of the solution. Mm-hmm. Maybe the watershed in the instance of this man's yard, basically his house washing away, is part of the solution. But I feel like we always make some kind of technical reason to not be part of the solution, and we stick to that technicality, and that frustrates me. There is no one that sees the pictures of that man's backyard and goes, I bet the watershed doesn't have anything to do with that. that frustrates me a little bit because these are real things. Now, in relation to this project, if the New Brighton project like is a piece of that puzzle that we can solve for this resident, and I'm sure there's others that just haven't come here to say something about that very serious issue, then I don't have a problem with that. My question, I'm not even dialoguing or questioning the way you want to allocate the funds. I'm fine with that. It looks like it was very thoughtful. It was based on scoring, and I appreciate that. Separately, I would like the Watershed in some way, shape, or form to very, very real address this man's flooding issues. Whether we are, I'm not saying we're solely responsible, but it can't be technicalities all the time. These are real life things that people deal with, and I don't like that we kind of play with the language to try to keep ourselves out of being part of the solution.
So, Mr. Chair and Manager Robinson, I think the question you were asking is, was there follow-up? What kind of conversation is being had by the landowner? And
that answered first for you.
and
And I get spicy, you know that.
yes, and you did reach out to him. I mean, he was here. We had the discussion. Does this solve his problem, or at least get to it?
Yeah, so President Bradley mentioned one on Robertson. So, yeah, following the board's direction from the public hearing on the 11th, staff did reach out to the city to try to kind of facilitate a sit-down between district, city, and the landowner. The city did reply that they have had several meetings with that landowner regarding the project. Staff did, and then district staff did send a separate follow-up to that landowner. And in discussing with the engineer prior to that follow-up with that landowner, it was noted that while the project would indeed reduce the flooding risk to his structure, but I think it was kind of based on the topography and elevations of his particular parcel, it might not completely alleviate the issue of a wet gully.
So what the point I wanted to make, along with support of it, just is if we look at a project, we say, well, you know, that it doesn't fall properly in our silo, but maybe it falls in the city's silo. And if the city will address it through its stormwater program, we have a project, by the way, where we can sometimes give grants to support stormwater programs like this one. That's all I was trying to say is that we make it clear what I saw as a really clever solution to a problem that we're helping with. And if I were funding it, I would give it more than 50%. And I would have taken the money. But I'm not going to try to, apparently they've bought in. If they come back to me and they say, no, we can't do this, I want us to solve that problem.
So, Mr. President, what I hear in this discussion is that the Watershed District Management Plan has certain numbers on it that have to be fulfilled in order for something to be accomplished. And so the rainfall has to be of such a magnitude. But let's say you get every day a little bit of rainfall, kind of like it's been the last 40 days in France. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of France. They've had 40 days where there's rain in there.
No, it was there in Maui.
And yeah, but Maui's used to 40 days of rain.
Yeah.
France is not. And so, but every day you get a little bit of rain, it doesn't maybe make that 100-year flood event. And you get a little bit more. Pretty soon you have this yard here. But it doesn't trigger the watershed district's plan because of the numbers that are necessary of the event size. So I think we need to have it change because flooding, whether it's from a little bit over a couple of days or 10 days or such, or a season, or whether it's 10 inches in 24 hours, it's the same problem. And so, and it doesn't solve anything. So I think here we need to take a look at what the plan allows us to do, and because the plan is restricting us because of the numbers that are saying, well, you can only do it if it triggers this or triggers that. It doesn't solve this issue. And I don't think that this is going to be solved. This man's backyard might be a little less wet, but he's still going to have problems, as I understand it, with the project that's in there. And as a watershed district, flooding is our most important, at least for me.
It is, I know it's yours, it is one of our important issues.
Well, to me, it's number one.
I know that.
Because property is,
Yeah.
people's property is what they're gonna worry about first.
Yeah.
And that's the same with water clarity on lakes. Lake owners are always worried about their property value of their lake that they have access to. So I think we need to take a look at how this works, because triggering the plan on a 100-year event or a 500-year event or a 2-year event, if you have rains that are a little bit less than two-year events and you have them over a continuous wet spring, this is what happens.
Marcy?
I want to ask a question about the enhanced sweeper. I know that this is the city of Lino Lakes, and they have intentional areas that they're using it. So as I understand it, it's like regional effort, and it scored very high on the scoring sheet. Do we anticipate that next year we might see $400,000 applications from other cities to get their enhanced sweeps?
We had the same concern the first time we
Well,
did one of these.
Mr. President, just for a little history on the back here. In the past, we've done this in 2 places that I remember. The first time it came in was when, a long time ago, when I was first on the board in the aughts, 9 or 10 or something. The Brighton asked for it, and myself and Mastel were interested in it, and the other 3 said, "You fools." The next time it came in, it was a little different board change. We had people different on the board. And Hugo came in and asked for it, and it was an addition, this re-enhancement. It means the vacuum is added to it, and that was 50 grand.
Right.
And the one at Forest Lake was the same thing, was 50 grand, but we split it 25 with Comfort Lake.
Comfort Lake.
And both cities use their machinery in other cities. Hugo, for example, in Centerville. So when they say this regenerative air re-enhancement, that's the vacuum that's on there they're talking about. And they might have an older street sweeper that goes ahead of it. And one of the problems that Mounds View was so clear at one of our citizens partners meetings was to tell us that they had gotten to the point where they stopped using street sweeper just for the purpose of getting the leaves up because it fills up the tank too quick on the street sweeper. They ran a skid loader in front of it, put it in the dump truck, and the sweeper came behind. So to point out to you, I suppose enhanced street sweepers are more than 50 grand these days, because we did that with Hugo quite a few years ago. And Forest Lake.
Yeah, but the 50 grand was sharing. So it was 100 grand, and we paid 50, the city paid 50. So.
No, the machine that Hugo bought was $250,000.
Yeah.
And they paid 200 grand, and we paid 50.
Yeah.
So my point here is that I too think the sweeping is certainly valuable, but just in anticipation of what comes the next time around.
Well, that's the thing, over the years, we just haven't had the interest in this so far. It's been amazing to me that in the nearly 20 years I've been on this panel, it's only been talked about, this is the 4th one.
Mr. Chair?
Nick, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Nick was going to comment.
Oh,
Nick?
go ahead, Nick, sorry.
President Bradley, Board of Managers, really quickly, yes, I suspect that many cities would be interested in the district supplementing their equipment fleets, if you will. The key word in what we're discussing here, whether it's old school sweeping or vacuum sweeping, is that sweeping is a water quality benefit across urban areas, particularly when coupled with areas where tree litter, et cetera, and the phosphorus loading is concentrated, and we can have our municipal partners clean that up. I believe some of you have seen at Minnesota Watersheds, some other organizations gave presentations in regards to that. Programs that they have, there was a request for us to bring that back. So perhaps when we have that discussion, we can look at decoupling, or when you release the program in 2027, maybe you'll have some altered format where both can proceed with clarity. Thank you.
The cost share, Mr. President, has always been just for the vacuum part, not for the machine itself.
Well, but I asked for the incremental cost for that, and they couldn't tell me. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm actually going to make a motion on this in particular resolution. It seems there's not disagreement about the allocation of dollars, however, the merits of pick something. Pick any particular thing. We're dialoguing things outside of what's being asked of us today. Well, I want to thank you and all the entities that go together in scoring these applications, including the CAC. So with that, I would offer Resolution 2026-04, and I would move its adoption. Attorney Kolb, if you want me to list the dollar amounts allocated per grant applicant, I'm happy to do that, but it looks like the proposed motion as presented should be sufficient.
I agree.
All right, thank you.
Second,
So I think we've had discussion already. Oh,
Manager Bradley said at some point I'd be able to talk about.
certainly. Please come forward. It's not too late. Come on.
So
Again, state your name for the record.
So when I saw this, I was ecstatic. First, I had to look it all up online, Google it, figure out what the heck they're talking about. Because when I found out more information, I thought this was wonderful. But when I looked at the map of the targeted areas as where I really felt there were some things being missed. And one was the location where the Works Department is Rondo Lake, if you guys know where Rondo Lake is. It's West Rondo Lake Road that if you drive onto it to get into the water, the building department, whatever you wanna call it, street, whatever. Anyway, all the machinery's there. But that Rondo Lake, west and east, are not on the targeted areas. And that is one of the 2 lakes in Lionel Lakes that are not on the impaired list. And since it's right there, it just seems like it would be beneficial. And again, I don't know if we can, I understand, I spoke to the gentleman at Lionel Lake, they only have so many man hours, but it's right there. And to me, it's a very important lake to keep off the impaired list. And that lake is not, the roads are not dead-end lakes. It goes all the way up into Columbus, which she was here. And with the development going on around those beautiful area, it's getting developed more and more and more. I just think it's beneficial because I realize it is great with phosphorus. And again, this is all information I've learned since I never heard of this before. And there are 2 more roads that I think are important. And I'll leave one of them to the last, which doesn't make sense. It's called Aqua Lane, which is the only entrance into Chaminade Golf Course. Now, it's a very short distance, but I believe if you did a ratio of the traffic from that short distance to the start of the park, compared to any other road, it's a very short, you would find that there is more traffic in that short period of ratio right there than just about any other one. And I just, it's small, so I can see where you'd skip it, but I see it, gotta remember now I'm a big kayaker, so you can go right into the park area, not up to the golf course, and there's a little bridge you cross, and you can go right down into the creek. And it's a great place. But because it's so veering down, the runoff from Lake Drive goes down Aqua Lane and then can go right into the swamp area, which goes into the creek, which goes into 2 lakes that are in the creek area. I won't go into the lakes. And the third one is James, which is just a small little L-shaped road between Main Street and Lake Drive. Now, when Main Street or Lake Drive back up, people take that little cutoff to get going faster, not waiting in line. And again, if you're going to go do just about anything and you're going to drive on Main Street or Lake Drive, why not just drive that way? And so I don't know if you can make strong suggestions. I know Will's heard me talk about this So I sent him emails on this to clarify, and I don't know if you guys have gotten the emails or the attachments that I sent to Will. These are the 3 that I feel are really missed on that list of target sites. I'm not saying take anything off. It's just, okay, that's it. I know I'm passionate. I really like our lakes and I use them all the time. I don't use Rondo because that's a private little area that is not open much.
Thank you for your comments. They've heard them. I will say to you that our contracts with them are not going to tell them where to use the sweeper, so that's fine. That's good. Anything further?
Call the
Otherwise,
question.
Call the question. This is a roll call, I think it is.
Yes.
Let me find it. All right. So all in favor of approving the specific grants in the amounts proposed by staff? And the following was Bradley, yes. Higlin's absent. Robertson?
Aye.
Waller?
Yes.
Wynant?
Yes.
So it passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you. I repeat what Manager Robertson so correctly stated was, this is a lot of work. I didn't know when I first saw them come in how on earth you're going to work your way through that. I want to also be very thankful for our partners who've accepted less money than they asked for to help us get this done. So,
Our
next item.
email is there.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Next item, I guess.
Yeah, President Bradley, next item on the agenda is Rice Creek Watershed District and its lobbying efforts. David, to give an update in a number of areas, including the potential lobbying contract.
President Bradley, board managers, thank you. As Nick mentioned, we did have a board workshop in February that we reviewed some of the lobbying efforts and potential contract with the lobbyists, specifically looking at the Jones Lake bonding bills as well as other district interests. And so since that time, we did reach back out to our city partners at the City of Roseville and New Brighton to let them know that we weren't looking to pursue a contract at that time. We then had our city and county partner meeting at the City of New Brighton. And following that meeting, received an email from City of New Brighton staff basically stating that they were interested in still pursuing a lobbying contract for these bills and suggested that perhaps we could have a three-way split of the contract fee between the City of New Brighton, Roseville, and the district, if that might be more palatable to getting a contract approved. And so last night at the City Council meeting, City of New Brighton did pass a resolution honoring that. City of Roseville has presented it to their Public Works Director and it is sitting with their city manager at the moment, but they don't have official action on that yet. So all that to say, if there was still an opportunity to potentially pursue that contract, three-way split of the fee, that may be an option for you to consider. That being said, we also have been pursuing our own legislative contacts with Manager Wynant did attend the Ramsey County League of Local Governments legislative meeting and presented our project and spoke with several legislators there. Manager Waller, as well as Sarah Belden from our office, did go to the Capitol last week to hear a couple public committee meetings on the updated budget recommendations from the governor. I'll note that next week, the Minnesota Watersheds organization is having a legislative evening as well. So I've reached out and invited all of the legislators, House and senators from our district that have overlap, as well as reach out to each of the committee hearings, 3 different committees, each of those parties that invite them to come out and meet with us to talk about the project. So we are still pursuing at a step level, but do see a potential option for professional assistance on this.
Well, I think this support shown by the City of New Brighton and City of Roseville and the willingness on their part to contribute funds and enhances my own view of the value of this. And so I will move that upon confirmation of the cities of New Brighton and Roseville to cost share with us, upon advice of council, to authorize administrator to execute a contract with Park Street Public for professional services as a contract lobbyist for the 2026 Minnesota legislative session, not to exceed $20,000. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Any discussion?
I have a question, if I may, just clarification. The up to $20,000 is total $20,000 for the lobby contract or the district's responsibility? Because that's not stated very clearly in the motion.
So it would be a three-way split of the $20,000, so approximately
Understand.
$6,666 each.
I will reiterate kind of what I said in the workshop. I think this session is going to be very, very difficult to get dollars from pick a committee, pick the House, pick the Senate. It's going to be very difficult. I think there is an uphill climb for anyone that has a request, quite frankly. There is a massive deficit, and I don't know. I know we're only a weekend, but it already feels like this year's session is a lot of this, and it really kind of makes me sad, and it disheartens me because there's so many great things that we can do for our state, but we'd rather be right than work together, and that's really irritating. So, I mean, again, I just don't think the timing is right based on what we've already seen come out of the state. I appreciate that Roseville and New Brighton want to get on board and cost share, but I would even, in the capacity, if I was with either of those entities, would say the same. Do it next session when you know that there's less spiciness going on and more predictability as far as even getting in front of a committee or having your bill heard. I can tell you just even from some of the things that the city of Blaine has on our legislative priorities with our lobbyists, it's been, like I said, a weekend, and it's just kind of an ick. It's been a little ick. So that would be my recommendation, and it's not because I'm against the project or the request for funding. Just, again, I think the ask during this legislative session is going to be very difficult, and it doesn't matter who the lobbyist is. You could have 10 lobbyists, and I don't know that it would move the needle. So that would be my comment on that.
Marcy, did you pick up any intelligence from the meeting of the Ramsey County and Senator Marty?
Well, I would say similarly, it will be a tough session. We will hope that there's a bonding package, and hope, I guess, is the operative word in this, and whether or not this happens this year, whatever we do is building the foundation for the next time around.
Yeah. And I don't argue with you about the difficulty, but I would say that when it's difficult, it's when you need help. And I certainly think the cost to us is so small in comparison to the potential gain that I think we should do it. Any comments? And otherwise I'll call for a vote.
Well, Mr. President, as I mentioned, Sarah came down and did a wonderful job. Thank you very much for sending her, Mr. Administrator. We had a chat with longtime Representative Rick Hansen after the meeting. He happens to be on the bonding committee. And he looked at the project and he said, well, I see it's got my name on the park. And he said, and it's the Danish spelling, so that's all good. And then he said, we were promised to have money for the local projects like this a few months ago when the earthquake was. And he says the governor's infrastructure plan doesn't have it. He says they lied. So I'm going to leave you with that. I don't think that spending this kind of money at this time is going to get us anywhere this session. And it would be. I also think that the cities of New Brighton and Roseville have a lot more swing with their representatives to get these kinds of things done for us. That's what happened the last session when Senator Housley, who was in the minority, by the way, was able to bring home the bonding money for Forest Lake, which freed up our money that we had for years and years on Clear Lakes Road. And she was able to do that. And so I think that these cities need to have a lot more political pressure on senators, longtime senators like Marty, for example, and Pappas, to be able to get this going. But basically, I take Rick Hansen's advice in hand, and I haven't changed my position on this.
Okay. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have 5 today. I'm going to lay this over, if we could, for 2 weeks, so we can have all 5 of us comment on this. The cost is too small, and the gain is potentially too great to not pass up this opportunity without having 5 of us speak on it.
And Mr. Chair, I would just like to clarify, Senator Marty was at the meeting. I have talked to Senator Marty. This is in his district, and whether his name is on it at this point or not, he is certainly in favor of it. The second thing is I will have to say again that this is so short-sighted, and we're now down to a little less than $7,000 that
Yeah.
I think if we don't follow through on this, this speaks loudly to our city
Commitment.
partners. So,
Yeah, I mean, 2 of our main city partners on their own came forward and said this is a solution. So I will hold this over until 2 weeks from now.
They came forward, made an offer. You haven't heard from Roseville right yet, so
Well,
Manager Jess is correct about that we don't know what the amount of money is, but
well, this, the
I'd
motion
also
was
point out to
subject.
you that this isn't the only legislation we had before or wanted done.
It's the only
And-
legislation
and-
we have that has a prayer this year.
And I really don't see any reason why we need to spend $20,000 on this.
we're not spending $20,000 on this, it's
I don't-
$7,000.
I don't see any reason to spend, at this time, possibly $14,000, because we only have 7 confirmation from one city council that I know of.
First of all,
So I don't see any reason to spend any money on this
Okay.
right at the time, period.
All right, so let's move on. Thank you.
Do you not need some kind, you had a motion on the table.
You need a
And
vote.
so
I
you
withdrew
need.
it. I withdrew
Okay,
my motion.
well, you can't, okay. I
We
think
should have 5 people here. I don't, are you going to do?
We haven't had 5 people for a year,
So,
and that's fine.
Well, my
I-
point is, are you going to do a Robert's Rules on me and say that she can't vote if in 2 weeks, if we turn, it's going to be 2-2. I
No,
can read.
I'm not at all suggesting that. I think where my frustration is coming in this moment is that we've had several disagreements in the last 3-4 years that I've been here, and I just wish the disagreements could be more polite than they are. I don't need to be told that I'm being short-sighted or that I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't appreciate that. Nonetheless, I think you need to make a motion to table
All right.
this. I think there needs to be a motion to pull it off the agenda and move it and/or delay it officially, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not fighting what you're trying to
No,
do.
I don't
I'm just
know.
saying I don't
That's fine.
think you can just withdraw your motion and move on. I think
A
there
motion
needs
for
to-
table can be made at any time.
Yes.
Table it to the
And
next
a
meeting.
motion to table is
move-
not debatable, so
Thank
if
you.
you
I
want a
move-
pro
I
tip on how to shut
thank
it
you.
down, that's it.
I move to table this and to bring it back in 2 weeks at our next meeting.
There you go. It's a non-debatable motion, so
Thank you for your assistance.
I got you.
A vote?
Call the vote.
You have a
You made
second?
it.
You have a
All
second
right,
to
so
that
I call a
motion?
vote on my
You
vote.
have a second, Marcy, you make it a second?
To table?
Yeah.
Yes.
You call
All in
for the vote
favor,
to
say
table.
aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for your support getting us through that process. Appreciate it. Next.
So, President Bradley, Board of Managers, we will continue and move through the agenda here.
We should have added an agenda item to talk about, I don't know, puppies and kittens, just to lighten the mood a little bit.
It feels better
More of
already.
more of
Yeah,
Matt's lovely
yeah.
fish stories, I don't know.
We will continue on. President Bradley, Board of Managers, next on the agenda is Rice Creek's 2025 financial report regarding Metro shooting and the Trost settlement. This is the annual review that we do regarding the district's liability and obligation associated with that. I'll note that you were given an updated memo from Rinky Noonan at the dais, along with the annual credit accounting. I'd prefer you set the credit accounting aside, but that is certainly something we've routinely covered here. The effort here is to give the board background information and what has changed in the past year here to update the anticipated worst case, if you will, of that obligation based on the information. And this year we do have a MinRAM analysis, which the landowner, their consultant, has provided to the district. And then secondly, from there, we look to communicate with the auditor in regards to that condition and how it looks on our financial report. So with that, noting the revised memo again, President Bradley, maybe you want to turn to Mr. Kolb, or?
I would like to turn to Mr. Kolb. Mr. Kolb, you
Managers,
revised.
I do have a correction in the memo that's updated, that's at the dais. There's a statement in the unbolded portion in the last paragraph on page 5 that says the statement unchanged from 2024. That is incorrect. This is a change statement from 2024. What we did was we eliminated from the last sentence of the bolded section, it said, "We are reasonably confident that it will be able to meet its obligations for wetland mitigation from," and it used to say existing resources of the district. That was the statement we had in 2024. We've removed the word existing, and the reason for that is to try to avoid any confusion about an overt commitment of current balance in the Browns Preserve Wetland Bank account, but to also signal that the board is confident that if and when an obligation comes to fruition with regard to metro shooting of the Trost properties, that the board is confident that the district can meet those obligations, and whether that's from existing mitigation credits in the Browns Preserve, or that's from some other method of purchase or acquisition of credits, that's the basis of the statement. And the big change between this year and last year, as Nick pointed out, is that we do have a routine assessment of the quality of the wetland, and that influences the application of the district's rules in terms of mitigation ratios and requirements. And so we're slowly circling in on what I guess a maximum obligation might be, understanding that until we have a development plan and until we have an obligation or an application, and until we know what the other regulatory agencies might require in terms of mitigation, we cannot fully quantify the district's obligation. But we do owe the auditor a statement consistent with past practice of identifying this what we call a contingent future obligation or a contingent future liability, and we do need to make some position as to our ability to fulfill that obligation should it come to fruition.
I would, just for the record, point out that this, and I thank you for this modification, was a result of a discussion I had with Mr. Kolb. I wanted to clarify that earlier in his memo, he had said that we could use existing wetland credits, or we could buy credits, or we could use our funds in a number of ways to solve this problem, but we were committing to solve the problem. And so by taking out the word existing, then it allows us to use the appropriate mix of resources as the board determines at the appropriate time. So thank you for that change, Mr. Cole.
Mr. President, I don't see a motion for this.
Its motion, I believe, is something to the effect of...
President Bradley, if I could assist, in the Rankin-Noonan memo, the last page, the revised language, and the reason that I didn't put one in the staff memo is it's the bold text at the close of the Rankin-Noonan memo.
So I believe the motion was meant to be... Well, I'll make a motion. I'll create one if I need to.
If I could, I'll offer from your discussion, this last part of the revised memo
Right.
is the
The
position as I understand it.
So I move that we adopt the following position regarding our 2025 audit. that the Board of Managers finds that it is reasonably possible that one or more events will occur so as to cause the district to incur what is now a potential contingent future liability, and therefore that this liability should be referenced in the 2025 financial report as follows, or is modified by the auditor's judgment. In settlement agreements approved in 2005, the district committed that when development occurs on two tracts then owned by Metro Shooting Center Corp., MSCC, and Trost, the application of the district's wetland rules will not have the result of affording the owner of the MSCC parcel fewer than 100 contiguous non-wetland acres, and the owner of the Trost parcel no fewer than 45 such acres. If additional wetland replacement mitigation is required under regulatory programs administered by the district to attain the stated acreage, the district will bear the cost of that replacement mitigation. Though the district is unable at this time to estimate its expense if and when the liability should arise, the district is reasonably confident that it will be able to meet its obligations for wetland mitigation from resources of the district. Is there a second?
I'll second this for discussion. First of all, what I want to know is, there's phrase in here says affording the owner of the MSCC parcel fewer than 100 contiguous non-wetland acres and the owner of the Trost parcel. Who owns the Trost parcel these days?
I believe the city of Blaine currently owns the Trost parcel.
So I think it'd be for more clarity that could be, you know, the gun club is still owned by the gun club, but if the city of Blaine owns that, then maybe in parentheses, we should put in the city of Blaine.
That's an amendment I could accept.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, technically, it's not the city of Blaine that owns that parcel, it's the Economic Development Authority of the city of Blaine that owns that parcel, if we're gonna get technical.
No, that's correct, and I apologize, I should have been clear.
Well,
I'll bill you for my
yes,
my edits.
I don't have any, I think that's important to be clear who owns the property
Yeah.
we're talking about.
So after the word parcel, we could add parens. Should we use the word currently, or we'll just say owned? Owned by,
President Bradley?
Yep.
I can't help myself but note that it does say the owner of, and then it references the parcel. So it's using, as in the settlements, I would, whoever the owner is,
Sure.
this does pass, the settlement passes through
Right. and just-
ownership, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe for clarification, and Attorney Cole, maybe you can weigh in on this, if it would make more sense to refer to the quote-unquote Trost properties by their actual parcel IDs, because there's two parcels through Anoka County identified to that in particular piece of property, because then at least it encompasses, here's the parcels we're referring to, and quite frankly, it might make sense to even include tax IDs or parcel IDs on the Metro Gun Club site as well, for clarification.
And Mr. President, Manager Robertson, I have no concerns about adding that level of detail. I just want to note that we have tried to align these statements with the actual language in the settlement agreement.
Got it.
Which does not reference tax parcel IDs, does not reference legal descriptions explicitly, even though we would have to go back into other documents to find those. So we can certainly reference that. I don't think there's any issue with that whatsoever. But just know that the origin of this language really comes out of those settlement agreements.
At which point we don't need to identify the owner either. Got it. So I think it's appropriate that we just move forward as is. This is a statement that goes into a financial. It's meant to be a statement to the public of what commitment we have made, rather than a binding separate contract.
Correct. It's actually a statement to our auditor, and then our auditor uses its judgment as to whether and how to address this. And if I'm not mistaken, in past audits, the auditor has not noted this expressly in the actual audit document.
That is correct.
But for transparency reasons, we want to make sure that we are fully transparent with our auditor, and the fact that we do this at a public hearing, at a public meeting, is a further evidence we're trying to also be transparent with the public about this future contingent obligation of the district.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 4-0. And thank you for your efforts.
Yes, President Bradley, if the board desires, we could certainly talk about.
Why don't you do that? Because it's a topic that comes up periodically, and we ought to add to this at someplace.
President Bradley, Board of Managers, traditionally, you have, at this point, contemplated briefly, albeit, your obligations regarding projects, how those tie into your mission statements and the goals, and you look to consider and reconsider prioritization of what you see on the horizon. So in the ledger that was handed out, titled Bronze Preserve Wetland Bank Credit Accounting and Forecasting, I'll make a few notes about that. Obviously, it's right at the top. It's noted as it was updated here in February. You'll see the past ledger of activity, the deposits and the withdrawal. And then down, you'll see a horizontal line that changes the version. There are a few changes there. All those are forecasted events. They're given a generalized year to identify it, noting our current discussion regarding the Metro shooting parcel. It is noted as to be determined, and just because we can't necessarily schedule a project that is not one of our own, but we are identifying its likelihood to come in the future. The other years reference like our ACD 102232 project and the potential for alternative 4. Each of those is given a debit amount as we currently or best understand it, similar to the settlements. We've included Jones Lake, although it notes 0. We aren't through the regulatory rigors yet, so perhaps that will change. Noting JD3 Clearwater Creek, ARJ81, and Ramsey Washington JD1 repairs, all kind of listed there to give a flavor of what's to come. The change here, noting the additional information, the what is known as a MINRAM, the quality assessment of the Metro shooting parcel, has that debit, and so for the this report, you see at the bottom there 4.6002 deficit, but that is specific to your wetland bank. And so when I see that, and please note further down there, the value of your asset, $4.8 million of wetland credit that you hold, frankly, to be clear, this has real value to the public. It's not monopoly money, if you will, and that's based on the 2025 sales data, which puts a credit worth $121,000. So the 4.6 credit deficit is roughly $500,000. I've noted that, and then within our project anticipation fund, our budget, I've earmarked so that we're tracking that along with any of our other projects. What are our projects in the 5-year time horizon? Where will there be grants available? Will there be a water management district? Or, these other funding opportunities in the district, again, to have this pool, its fund by which to offer the public stability and the mission of the district.
Nick, we, last year, I think, authorized release of 3 credits, I think it was 3 credits, to the city of Centerville. Not Centerville, I mean,
City of Columbus.
Yes. Is that listed here?
President Bradley, I don't immediately see it there, but I can make sure that it's in there. double check the
Yeah,
accounting.
'cause otherwise
Yeah.
we're
Yeah, even further.
further down.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. President, this withdrawal forecast is just what it is, a forecast.
Yeah.
Not a,
It's
not an actuality. And so when you change the wording that we just did a few minutes ago from existing, that, I get a chuckle out of that, changing that word existing. Now I understand, because we had this frees up the use of these forecasts for other purposes then.
Well, otherwise, John, you would end up with a
Just
balance.
noting it, that's all.
Yeah, I just say you'd end up with a balance of 10 units with no purpose. So anyway, these are debates that will be occurring if and when we get further down the road on any of these projects.
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, again, you've annually forecast, what's on the horizon in some of those projects. And I was conversing with Chris, we had in the past example, or the past ledger, we thought we may have a no-kindage 5362 would have the need for credits. That came to pass, and we didn't need them. We worked with Mr. Schmidt in regards to the Pine Street culvert. We thought we may have a liability there. And again, as unfortunate as it is, I guess, that, conditions change or the law changes or we receive a grant and those sorts of things, we continue to try to focus better and better on what the obligations of the district are and meeting its goals and priorities. So again, consideration, reconsideration, a reversing of what's to come, and obviously that comes together from this broader, I'll say, 5-year time horizon to your annual budget. Even then, we're at times uncertain if we're going to receive revenue from a grant or otherwise. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, do let us know what you find out about the
Yes.
on this. It's not an action item, so I believe we would move on.
What do you mean it was an action item? It's in the action item column.
Well, not his report.
Yeah, President Bradley, yes, the action item was the report to the auditor.
Yeah.
This is just simple follow-up as we've traditionally done. Certainly we can move this to a different place for consideration by the board.
Check register.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the check register dated February 25th, 2026 in the amount of $375,908.54, and February's interim financial statement prepared by Redpath and Company.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Staff reports? They're in there. Any comments on staff reports? March calendar. Anything of note?
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, note on the Wednesday, March 3rd and 4th, Minnesota Watershed's legislative briefing for your consideration. I'll note the March 4th Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. We've had a lot of discussion about that. I see the manager assignment there. Yeah, nothing further on that.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd just say, Manager Robinson, when I was at the CAC meeting last time, they had requested reports from the board. And I know that you always give that, but just to say out loud to all the managers, some
Expectations.
reporting about what we've been up to the last month was requested by the group.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make a
Oh,
PowerPoint.
boy. Okay. Administrator update?
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, I will ask Matt to step up and hook up his computer. I did have a request. While he's doing that, I will share a couple items with you. I did have a nice phone conversation with Steve Wagman. You had created a plaque that we wanted to share with him. He thanks us very much for that. And we've accomplished that. Certainly, staff welcome Manager Hageland, and I'll make staff available for her onboarding, as Teresa's done a lot of that already. And with that, at some point, probably your next meeting, we'll take a picture of the 5 of you. If you wanted a heads up, there it is.
Tails.
If, Matt, looks like you're ready, maybe, noting the city-county partner meeting. Matt gave a little presentation on the wake boats and U of M information. There was a request to kind of get that out in the public here. We'd like to do that again.
Yes, President Bradley, members of the board, we talked about wake boats at the city-county partner meeting. What the district's role is. One of the district's roles here could be education and outreach, and that is alerting people in the public and lake associations and lake users to the new research from the University of Minnesota on wake boats and their impacts on lakes, and also showing people, based on the U of M's recommendations about where wakeboarding has an impact and where it doesn't, where they might consider focusing their wakeboat activities versus not. So the maps that we have here are still in draft form, but the idea is to show wakeboat users where they could go in the district and where they might not want to go in order to minimize impacts to lakes. So the areas in yellow here would meet the criteria that the U of M is suggesting, that is greater than 500 feet from shoreline and greater than 20 feet of depth in the lake. As we saw from the overview map, there's not many lakes in the district that meet that criteria. Many lakes have no areas that would meet that criteria. But for those lakes that do, if wakeboarders are going to go there, the idea would be to try and encourage them to utilize these areas of the lake to minimize their impact of the lake. So I'll just scroll through a couple of those.
Let me quickly see that one. Okay.
What was the depth again, Matt?
Greater than 20 feet. The idea here with these maps is not to provide a navigational aid necessarily, or give them precise locations where they might want to wakeboat or not wakeboat, but generally point them in the right direction.
So Matt, are you going to distribute these to the lake owners associations on these lakes, or how do you get?
President Bradley, we're still talking about how we might want to distribute this, and lake associations, yes, it makes sense there, through social media, on our website. Those are all things that we're talking about. But these are brand new hot off the press. Many lakes have really small areas, questioning whether or not it would even make sense, like along like here.
Wow, that's long.
Long and not long and shallow.
So no action item here, but wanted to alert the board to this idea that we're creating these maps and trying to get good information out to the public.
Thank you.
Nick, you more to say?
No, thank you very much. I think that covers what was asked. Appreciate it.
Anything further?
Yes, President Bradley, I also had a request regarding historic permits and an update there. Patrick, I don't know if you need to link your computer, but I'll make a few comments here and then we'll go from there. I'll just tell the board that I have been talking with Kendra in regards to the CAC and what that looks like and how we'll cultivate a good conversation and bring the CAC into its what it defines itself and how it might best support the board and at the board's discretion. I'll note that the plop sediment matter at Halls Marsh, I have that scheduled for the April workshop. And we continue with our project that we had there at Teague Schmidt Park and partnering with the Washington Conservation District to improve water quality there. And with that, Patrick, if you had a few words about historic permits.
Sure. Not going to share anything on the screen. Very, not interesting Excel sheets. I haven't made anything look nice or anything. This is just from our discussion yesterday. So, historic permits, like we've talked about before, we do consider that kind of this open permit administration now. We're trying to get everything nailed down and just have it be these active permits. Just quick update that I can throw out there from some searches. And again, I'll bring this information in more detail at I believe it's the May workshop when we have the regulatory update. But in the 2025 calendar year, we closed about 150 permits in total. 2/3 of those would be more of those active ones. So 1/3 of those would be, about 50 or so older, projects done. We still need to get those closed out. Total surety amount that we returned last year was about $500,000. A couple of those were larger LOCs and bonds. But, if you look at 2010 and older, $25,000 essentially of what money was returned, and that's about 37 permits as well. So continuing to, get those permits off the books, and yeah, good efforts.
President Bradley, I have nothing further.
John, any updates?
Thank you, Mr. President. Quickly, I mentioned already that Sarah and I were at the Capitol for the House committee that does the bonding and listened to what went on there. I went a little early, and so I visited the committee before that. And yes, there's a lot of argument, I guess is the best way to put it, between the members over the auditing of and use of funds. I also went to the Ag Committee, listened there, and I also went to the Senate Capital Investment Committee, and I've been to the Environmental Committee a couple times. And I mentioned that the Environmental Committee is having the DNR making presentations, and I don't know if you remember, Mr. President, Mr. Jason Mecklin, White Bear Lake water deal. Anyways, he was there for the state of Minnesota Department of Natural Resources made a clarity that they are in charge of water quantity, not quality. The quality belonged to the Ag Department, the Health Department, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. But they're in the quantity business, both groundwater and surface. And why this is important is because they have now started to divide the state into 6 regions, approximately, and rate them as to how much groundwater is there, okay? So the region with the most groundwater in it is the metropolitan area. The region with the least amount of groundwater in it is the Arrowhead region. The next region, number 5, with the least amount, is that's west of the Arrowhead, let's say, and just sweep right on down the state border to Iowa, on the prairie that is there. Number 4 is what I would call the St. Cloud, Lower Brainerd, Pine City, above us here in the metro area. Number 2 is or 3 is the Watershed County south of that long coast area of the state, and number 2 is the part that's on the Minnesota River Valley. And so they will begin now to start monitoring permits much more if it endangers a fen or it endangers a city's water supply. Warren was given for his city as an example of a water supply that could be endangered in a drought. Then they will, of course, move forward to curtail watering your grass or even into use of water for crops and such like that. Our district had the unique experience of having 4 of our cities mentioned during this. Blaine, Hugo, White Bear Lake, and a little bit of Ham Lake up there. So, the Metropolitan Planning Commission also gave a spiel on this issue. They were basically talking about the White Bear Lake plan that they have going on there, and it was just an update of nothing really new there at all. So with that, Mr. President, I'm curious to go down and have another learning session at the state committees, because that's who's presenting in these bills right now, are the government, and they're telling you where they're going. And so buckle up, the DNR is going to have a little more impact, not on the quality of our life, but on the quantity of it.
RC?
I'll be attending the Minnesota Watershed's legislative briefing for sure on Tuesday day, and perhaps on Wednesday for the legislative visits.
Very good. Ms. Robertson?
Mr. Chair, I'm good at this time, thank you.
All right, so only thing I have is that Gary Kosarik, as board has already accepted and adopted a motion, set up a process to accept funds from his estate. His funeral is scheduled for this Friday at the St. Andrew's Lutheran Church, visitation at 10, and services at 11. And his obituary states apart, Gary was an active contributor to the Bald Eagle Lake Association and Rice Creek Watershed District, participating in water monitoring efforts and rain garden projects to protect water quality. The lake became a common bond, bringing neighbors together through a shared love of life on the water. So, thought you should be aware of that. So with that, a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Can't possibly. Thank you all. Heavy lift today.
Full day.